I'm Alex Howard.
And I'm Amanda Silver. And this is Dirty Laundry.
And this is our 100th episode. We did it.
Cue the applause.
Do you remember when we sat there in that coffee shop and I said, hi, Amanda, friend who I've just met, who I want to be besties with. Yeah. I want to do a podcast. You want to do it with me.
I was like, yeah, I'm in. But I've never listened to a podcast before.
Never.
This was
Not
like
a one.
2.5, 3 years ago, maybe?
Our podcast is really the first one you both did and listened to.
No, I think I listened to a few before.
Did I make you?
I'm like, I got to listen to this.
Yeah.
I got to do some market research before, I actually get in front of a
Fully
mic.
committing? Yeah.
Yes. But no, that was
Can we just do a bit of nostalgia for a minute?
Love it.
So remember those early days in my closet, and we were so nervous that we had to have margaritas first to get a little bit of liquid courage. And then we started recording at like 10 a.m. And I'm like, margarita time. It was so fun. We should have had margaritas for this episode. No, we're too professional now.
Now we're really, I know. We don't need it anymore.
We don't. We're just that
need
good.
A mic
It just took us a long time to get here.
I mean, 100 episodes is a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of commitment.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And consistently.
We have done 3 seasons.
3 seasons.
100 episodes. I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you. To you. How freaking cute are you? Number 1, for saying yes and coming on this road with me. Number 2, for Ryan, our amazing producer.
We love you, Ryan.
We love you. You always make us look and sound good. And number 3, our incredible guests. Like, we just randomly reach out to folks who we find interesting, inspiring, have something to share with this community. And more than not, they say yes. They are just coming here, giving up an hour of their time to talk about divorce. Not the easiest, conversation to have. And they do it and they keep showing up for us.
Yeah.
And then my final shout out, our amazing listeners. It's my absolute favorite when we get texts just being like, oh, I loved this point of view, or what a great, guest, or thanks for saying the thing that nobody wants to say. Like,
or I'm not alone.
I'm not
my God,
alone.
they experience this too.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is the magic of what we do. I really feel like that warms my heart is when we reach somebody just with like just a little snippet of advice or someone's story and it resonates with them. That to me is like
powerful.
Yeah, it's so powerful.
It's so powerful.
So what a platform we have and a privilege it is for us to be able to do that. So.
And you've had some very fun, like celebrity adjacent run-ins, which is also very fun.
I had one a few weeks ago.
Tell us.
No, I'm embarrassed.
I'll do it.
Okay, fine.
Twist my rubber arm.
Okay. If you make me. Yeah. So I was at an event with a bunch of my friends, and we were all sitting around the bar. It was like it was a fundraiser for something. Anyways, this woman comes up to me at the bar and she's like, hi. She's like, a friend of mine recognized you from your podcast, but she's too shy to come up and say hello. Can she come up and say hello?
Oh
and I was
like,
I'm poking my friends. Like,
imagine a world in which you were like, oh, absolutely not. I'm too busy.
Right, I'm too busy. I'm like,
cool.
no pictures, please. I'm poking my friends, like elbowing them, like, what's happening here? Like, look.
So cute.
And so she came up and she was just like, early stages, going through it. She had like tears in her eyes, and I'm like, I want to give her a hug right there. I didn't because I was, professional.
Sure.
But she just was just celeb. But she just was just like, I'm listening to it and it's really helping me get through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's honestly like the motivation we use really to keep going, because it's loads of work. It's work I'm obsessed with. I want to just do this day in and day out. But it's really good to know that like we actually are impacting people. So for today,
our 100th.
100th.
Centurion?
Yes.
Sent something?
Definitely sent something.
Sent something.
And we're going to do a bit of a retrospective.
Yes. I think
a look back.
On all the topics that have resonated most with our listeners. Yeah. Because we love the feedback. And our favorites.
Some of our favorites.
We love the feedback that listeners give us.
Yeah.
So this is all sort of the main topics that really resonate with them and that they want to hear, I think, more of.
So with that, I would say the first question that people have when they are struggling in their relationship.
Yes.
This is could begin their journey.
It's the seed.
It's the seed. Yes. Do you plant it? Do you water it? Do you watch it grow?
Sometimes it grows and you have no control over it.
Also that.
Right? It's growing.
Yes.
And with or without your help.
Yeah.
And that's the do I stay or do I go?
Yeah.
And that I think is one of the hardest. It's one thing to get into once you're in the divorce, you've made the decision and you're working out your finances and parenting plans and all that. You're already in it. The train's already going.
Yeah.
But to get onto it and start that process.
Do you board the train?
And there's so much that goes with it, right? The stigma, which is a big one. The financial.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think if you pull back the wool, I think the question, because you don't arrive at that question or need to have that question answered unless you've hit some road bumps in your relationship. Like some significant obstacles. Yeah. We're not taking this lightly. It's not like, oh, he snores, I'm out. No, this is like major significant issues. And really it's this question of, can I overlook them? Can I work past them? Can we I should say, work through them?
Is there still a we?
Is there a we on the other side of whatever that roadblock is? Right. But it's so much more complex than that.
And I really think that listening to people's stories and doing the work that we've done over the last 5 years as mediators has really shown me how difficult that decision really is.
Okay, so what have you learned?
Like I have found that it's more difficult than I ever even thought. You see the pain of the person who is in a marriage that is just, it's not terrible. So we're talking about outside the realms of domestic violence and maybe outside the realm of even infidelity. Yeah. Well, that's another whole other can of worms as well. But just something that we're just grown apart, or we're just, there's no magic, or
death by 1,000 cuts. Yeah.
That to me, that is the hardest struggle that I see my clients go through. It's the painful dragging on. The years pass by and nothing gets better. Yeah. And they want to leave or they don't want to leave, and it ebbs and flows. And I think that's the hardest decision for people to make.
And I think a lot of that decision is often not even rooted in your own sort of willingness or interest to leave or stay. But there's so much external noise and influence that can impact that. And so one thing I wanted to kind of talk about is this idea of identity and how we, in relationships, sort of take on that persona. Like you introduce yourself as, oh, this is my husband, this is my wife, this is my partner. Like you are a spouse or you are a this, right? And then where do you go when your identity is tied to being a spouse? And what about if that choice isn't even yours? Like we didn't even get there. But what
we're talking about the people who are making the decisions, not the people whose decisions have been made for them. There's two.
It's two camps, and we can't even do it all today. So stay tuned for part 2 maybe of this. But when your identity is wrapped up, like for me, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a mediator. Like we use these titles. We introduce ourselves. Oh, what do you do for work?
I'm a podcaster.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not forget about that one. Our most favorite title.
People are recognizing us.
But when your identity is wrapped up in being a partner and then you're no longer about to be one, then who are you?
And part of that family too. It's not just the person you're married to. It's their whole family, right? You're part of this like group of people that you're connected to. Yeah. And then you're now considering removing yourself from that whole connection.
And if you are a parent, these experiences that your children will now have without you, trips without you, right? Seeing parts of the world, going through whatever it is that they're going to go through.
Having friendships of people you don't know.
Yep.
And you just have to nod your head.
And try and still stay connected to them. And like, listen, this is also a part of your children just growing up and you knowing less and less about their lives.
Which
and
inevitably happens.
Exactly. That's, again, a completely different tale. But how do you then say, okay, is this relationship bad enough that I'm willing to sacrifice X, Y, and Z?
Right.
And often it can be lifestyle, right? Because raising kids in 2 different homes is a complete game changer for lifestyle.
And if you go back to some of our episodes about finance, like we had one with Eva Sachs, where she talks about the financial components that you have to deal with after, and some of our family law episodes. That's a huge one.
Huge one. Right. There's not only the cost of the divorce itself, but then there's the cost of the lifestyle that comes with being a single income earner.
Right. And maybe you're paying support. Maybe you're receiving support. Maybe you're not receiving enough. Maybe you're paying too much. Maybe you're not paying enough. Like, it's just, there's so much.
So you embark on this journey with very few answers to very gross amount of questions. You have a million questions and you have no answers. And where in the world do you begin? And then it's like emotion on one side.
Yes.
And then there is the logistics on the other side.
Yeah.
So it's looking inward, asking yourself, is this a relationship that I want to be in, that's serving me, that's bringing me joy? Like I always say, I'm like, is there more joy than pain? Well, then maybe you're okay. Are there things that you can work, is there willingness to work on these pain points?
Right.
By the other person, by yourself even, right? Sometimes we just get so tired. I'm like, I don't want to work at that.
Some people just have
That's not a bridge I want to cross.
Some people just, they ready to just throw in the towel because there's nothing left.
And as much as my clients are often like, Alex, have you seen this before? They're very self-conscious, right? Is this just crazy? You're like, have you seen this?
I'm like,
and yes, and like there's so many similar patterns, but everyone is so unique and their story is so individual and their children's needs are individual and their partner's needs are individual and their own needs and their families of origin and their friends. And like you're divorcing not just one person. As you said, there's this whole other family, but there's also the friends that you lose. Divorce separates friends group.
Often, especially when the conflict is higher.
Yeah.
And if there has been some trust, issues, what have you, the friend groups divide.
Yeah.
And you might lose some friends too.
Exactly.
The broken home. So I have an issue with this terminology. I can't tell you how many people have looked at me and said, I don't want to leave because I don't want my kids to be raised in a broken home.
Oh my God, it's so antiquated.
It's so antiquated. And that just shows you just the stigma that surrounds this topic. But like, it takes all my might not to like scream because I'm just like, wait a second, stop. I'm like, let's look at your home right now.
Yeah.
Okay. You're sleeping in separate bedrooms.
Right.
You each are, fooling around with other people outside your marriage.
Sure.
You are, one person's cut the other person off from money. You're fighting in front of the kids. Oh, it could be 1, 2, 3, all of the above.
Yeah.
You're telling me that is an intact home? I'm like, your home is broken.
Yeah.
At this point, your home is broken. So you need to fix.
Yeah, the divorce actually fixes it.
Your broken home.
Yeah.
And so I always have to like sort of correct. And I feel like I'm always lecturing people about this terminology.
Do you know what? I think it's like anything, right?
So loaded.
As we learn and grow, we learn, okay, this is actually a pejorative. We shouldn't be using this in our, day-to-day jargon.
Yeah.
That is definitely one of them.
I think it is. It's
but then
not
how
PC
do you
to say that anymore.
No, definitely get that out of your vocab. How do you feel about divorcee?
Oh, I hate that one too. My name is Amanda and I'm a divorcee. I hate it. It's cringy. Ugh. It's like, first of all, it ages you.
Right.
It makes me, I feel like it's so 80s. Like, I hate that word. I never say it.
So, and listen, it's much like coming out, which I'm also not subscribed to. I don't think you need to come out of anything. I don't think you need to do any, large like banners of this is who I am. This is my sexual orientation.
Life, right.
Yeah. Like who the fuck cares? Is there a word you prefer over divorcee? Single mom? Like that's another one where I'm like, comes with some heavy weighted, I think some people do use that as like a look at me, I'm a single mom or dad, whatever.
Yeah.
Insert, gender here. But like, give me these accolades because my life is so much harder that I deserve all of this attention and praise and what have yous for being a single parent, which I think you are. Whether you have a co-parent, whether you have financial support or otherwise, you're still doing this piece on your own.
Right.
You're not sharing time. You also, and it's not even just the negative. Like, yes, okay, is it difficult to raise kids? Okay, duh, that goes without saying.
Yeah.
When you have someone there who is parenting alongside of you where it's like, shit, you just got this call from school. Okay, how are we gonna, iterate to figure out what to do?
The emotional load gets shared.
Yeah, you get to share that burden.
I don't have to carry it all.
Yeah, and you also get to share in the wins, right? There's nothing better than sharing in when you get to sit there at the, soccer pitch and go, look at our fucking kid.
Yeah,
like, we did that. We did that. And so it's sort of both ends that you don't get to share in the difficulty or the joy.
Yeah.
To me, that makes you a single parent.
Yeah.
So regardless of all of the other things, I just hate the stigma that comes with it.
Yeah.
And this identity. And we are such a society of just like labels, labels, labels. But for what? So that we can like pigeonhole people into these like easy, tiny boxes that makes our life easier to identify with them. I'm here for none of it.
I was out last weekend and I found there's like a pattern that happens. Like, so when I meet people for the first time and I'm like, we're talking, I'm like, yeah, I'm divorced. I get this,
Mm.
oh, it'll be okay. And I'm like, fuck, it was 7.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like I've moved on, lived a whole life since then. Like, I'm great. Like, how are you? Like, are you okay?
Yeah.
But it's just all of a sudden, it's like, oh.
With a side head.
Oh, don't worry.
It's the pity.
It'll be okay.
Yeah.
It's a pity.
It's pity.
Yeah.
But then again,
stop pitying.
Gross, because that's judgment.
Yeah.
You're just judging someone else's life with zero information on what it actually looks like.
On the circumstances, for some people.
Yeah.
For some people, it is a sad, thing, and they're
It's
grieving.
sad
always to end something that you thought would be forever.
Yeah.
But for other people, it's a catalyst for amazing change.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I hear that.
Yeah.
I hear that.
So when someone says they're divorced, instead say,
so that's my PSA. How are you doing? How is that?
How is that? Yeah.
Just be curious.
Cool.
This is literally
Cool.
the answer to everything is stay curious.
Yeah.
Just ask a question. It's not that tricky. So yeah, do I stay? Do I go? What episode is that?
That was season 2, episode 9.
Okay.
Yes. But do you think we do have to do another episode of that? Like maybe in season 4?
Okay.
Because,
things change. We change. We learn.
Yeah.
New information is always coming at us.
Always.
And things can change. We also you touched on some money stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We learned a lot in these last 3 seasons about money and finances and how complicated it all is.
Yes.
And now listen, for the most part, I outsource my financial portions of my mediations because
it's very complicated.
It's complicated. It's incredibly important. There are a lot of legalities, a lot of nuance, a lot still room for negotiation. Yes. So I should say, before I throw myself under the bus, it's kind of 2 parts, the financial component, right? Because there's the actual calculations of amounts and of property and of assets and liabilities, etc. And then there's the really fun bit that you and I get to do, which is the negotiation.
Yeah.
That's how we support people. So it's like, yes, you are entitled to X, but do you really need it? You're going to negotiate for Y.
The legal model versus the negotiation model.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I think that even people who are just new to new to divorce, some people don't even know, they need to know the basics.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, we can get into all these RSPs and tax stuff and all that stuff, but they need to know that there's a difference between child support and Section 7 expenses.
Right.
And I can tell you, some of my clients come to me and they don't.
They have no
They're
clue.
Wasn't that included? I'm like, no, it's not.
Or they think vacation with dad, mom's on the hook for paying for part of it.
Yes. I'm no, you don't have to pay for dads to go to Mexico.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Or you don't have to pay for your kids to go to Mexico with dad.
Right. I have to pay for half the plane ticket. I'm like, no, you don't.
Absolutely not.
I'm like, no, that's not how it works. You take the kids to Mexico and you pay for it on your own.
Yeah.
So things like that.
Yeah. Very nuanced.
Yeah.
Very nuanced. But really important too, I think, just to go back, not to belabor, but this idea of do I stay or do I go? You really need a lot of information as well to make it. That's why I say it's an emotional decision, of course, but it is really also a logistical decision. Know what your life looks like on the other side. Do some budgets, right? Yeah. Talk to a financial advisor, an accountant, whoever is a trusted ally in your camp, for lack of a better word, and kind of get some tangible information about your legal rights, about your entitlements.
Right. Yeah. Before you announce that decision to your partner.
Listen, I'm not saying it would change your decision. Right. If you need to leave, go.
Right.
But all I'm saying is do it. Make that decision with eyes wide open.
Yeah. But I think it's, as you're talking, I think all of these great ideas of the things that they should do, right?
Yeah.
You should go and get this. It's a little Pollyanna in that those are all great. And in when you're clear-headed and you know what, you're not emotionally burnt out,
right,
or traumatized or anything like that, that's great.
Yeah.
But then you see some people where they barely get out.
Yeah.
They're in such an emotional state of distress that they can't go and make budgets. And they can't go. And it's something they have to do on the other side of it. They kind of have to just jump and figure it out.
Build their wings on the way down.
It's harder, of course, that way. But for some people, they just can't.
Yeah. And I think this is where we get back to how different everyone's divorce journey really is. And a reason why we love sharing real life stories.
Yes.
Because you can always find some kind of nugget of similarity.
There's some similar.
There's
something that you can pull from a story.
Exactly.
Ryan has something to say.
Yeah, speaking of finances, there's actually a recent podcast episode with Dave Portnoy on Club Shay Shay. And he revealed that his ex-wife has full access to his bank account. And it's just no problem, not a big deal at all.
Post-divorce.
Post-divorce. They've been divorced for, I don't know, 8 years.
Wow.
And he explained that since she was there for him through his entire journey, and then eventually they just weren't right for each other, he didn't feel right, like not letting her have access to everything she helped him build. And he's like a pretty prominent figure.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like an insane divorce story. Like I've never heard of that before. It's a guy who's worth $150 million, and apparently his ex-wife is just using his
level of trust.
I think that's amazing.
The level of like altruism in that.
Well,
I mean, listen, I love this. Thank you for sharing. This is the entire reason why we have a net family property calculation. Even if one person didn't work, but supported the other in other ways, raised the kids or didn't, or whatever.
Worked inside the home versus
worked inside the home, took, career steps backwards to support the partner. And then, what happens on divorce? Well, that's why you're entitled to half. That's the reason it's set up this way. But for just have carte blanche access?
Wow.
That's cool.
I've heard of some people who keep joint accounts where they just they don't really nickel and dime. They just especially if there's one who's much higher income earner, will just throw in money in there and then, they take out. But this is a whole other.
Yeah, he states like she could easily just take all of it. Like there's no like restrictions. There's no like red tape around it. Like she could just run away with it if she really wanted to.
But they have a level of trust.
But they just have a level of trust, and he just like, I've just never heard of anything like that, especially a guy who's a prominent figure and is worth millions and millions of dollars.
His lawyers probably told him not to do that.
100%.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Wow. I love
So for all the bad stories we hear on here, there's like another, you don't hear that very often. So
Speaking
I thought
of Pollyanna, here comes Ryan. I love it with the curveball.
It's true. I think, do we share a lot of negative stories or do we share a lot of, do we mix it up? What do you think, Ryan?
No, negative stories. Just the people who have negative stories are the people who usually come forward and speak.
Yeah.
The people who have good experiences usually just go about their day. So I think that's why it sways to more negative.
That's interesting because you're right. If things are going well, why would you come on and do like a tell-all?
Like the reviews, the restaurant reviews. You only review when you have a bad experience.
You're right.
Right? People aren't, I got to tell you about my amazing divorce. And they come on our show and tell you how wonderful it was.
Which FYI, please do. Like I would love to hear that. I would love to hear.
We've actually had a few. Like Jessica Frew, her husband came out as gay, met a man, they've separated, and the three of them are like co-parenting and they love each other together. And they travel together and they're so happy and like,
amazing.
Was it always that way? I'm sure that they had their ups and downs, but at the end they came out, pretty good. So
you're right.
There is some hope.
Yeah. We had Natalie Reisman on.
Yeah.
She is doing well. She's remarried, repartnered, very happy.
Yeah.
So there is, and that's a really good point of the journey is going to be difficult. We're not going to sugarcoat that. Yeah. I think that's why people are always like, I'm so sorry, because it is hard.
Fair.
The divorce itself is difficult.
Yeah.
But there is life on the other side.
Yeah.
And if you are listening and you're wondering, it does get better.
Yeah. And I think that the decision whether to stay or go shouldn't be made because of fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Right? You have to really, I think that's also a big one that keeps people in relationships where they maybe shouldn't be, is because they're so afraid of all the things that we just talked about, all the logistics, the finances, not seeing the kids, all of that stuff. You're right. It's all unknown.
But you know what? What a beautiful point. What a beautiful counterpoint. I love how we're like, let's have different opposing views. And every time we're like, but wait, I actually really like your view.
We love each other so much. We disagree all the time.
Because you know what? That kind of reminds me a little bit of like analysis paralysis.
Yes.
When you are inundated with so much information,
you can't.
You just stay stuck.
You can't do it.
It's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming.
Especially when there is the emotional, component of all of this. So maybe less is more. Maybe better to just lead with the heart, listen to your gut, and you'll figure it all out on the flip side.
We have a process in Canada for a reason. Yeah. It's not perfect, but there's a process.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have all the answers when you walk out that door.
Exactly. You can hire us and we'll give them to you.
There you go. You can, but you can hire professionals like us to walk you through it.
Yeah.
So you don't have to know what's next.
Exactly.
We'll tell you. Yeah. Don't worry. We got you.
So let's talk infidelity.
That is a very, very popular topic.
People love
to talk about cheating.
Love affairs.
They love affairs.
And what is that? Is that just like our like yucky side of us that want all this like titillating, goss on the DL? Like I just think,
or is it because it's so freaking common?
Well, maybe.
I think
you think people identify with it so much.
I think it's either it's so common or people are so fearful of it happening to them.
It's not ideal.
It's not ideal.
No, it's pretty hard.
So people want to, and also the goss part of it, where it's just salacious. Like it's a bit salacious. Yeah. Who did they do it with? How they do it? How they find out? Like,
because I find too when I'm talking to people like, oh, so and so got divorced. Oh, well, this is what happened. Like they want to explain.
Oh, you need to know why. Yeah. You have to know why.
Such a busybody to need to know why.
But isn't that always the question that follows it? So and so are getting divorced. Why?
And do you know what?
I knew it. Or I saw her here. I could have seen that coming. Yeah.
When I'm talking to people per the beginning of this conversation, what do you do for a living? Right? Everyone loves to know that. And I say what I say. It's always like, what's the most common reason you see? People do want to know.
Yeah.
And they're always like, is it affairs?
And
it's not.
It's not.
It actually is very uncommon. Certainly in my practice, I have not seen a ton of it.
Yeah.
It comes out. But it's like, well, we were miserable for years and that's why, so-and-so stepped out.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't say it's the most common. It's definitely prevalent.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more reasons that come up first.
For me, maybe this is fun, actually. Yeah. Let's do this.
Okay.
What is the number one reason you see in your practice for divorce?
They become roommates. I find especially as the kids are a certain age, we always talk about that 8 to 12 sort of age where they're out of the little kid era. There's no intimacy left. There's no interest. All they do is talk about the kids. The spark is gone and it just slowly builds and builds and builds over time that they have nothing in common anymore.
Yeah.
They just grow apart. And it's true. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, my typical answer is death by 1,000 cuts, which is, I think, the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just these little irritations or little incompatibilities, little breakdowns in communication, right? What do the Gottmans say? These bids of connection that go unanswered. Yes. And then you stop bidding.
Yeah. You start to look elsewhere.
And then you look elsewhere.
And we're not talking about infidelity. We're talking about it could be a friend. You're not getting any
work, a new hobby. You take up marathon running. Well, got to go out for 4 hours.
Right.
See ya.
I'm going to golf for 6 hours.
Right.
And it just becomes all the things that you're not doing together.
Yeah.
And the relationship just starts to just die.
Why does that happen though?
I think kids are a big part of it.
Kids are huge.
I really do. I think that, kids take such a toll on a relationship because they take they take everything from you in those years, right? And if you don't have the foundation or just the patience to sort of just ride that out.
I think we don't like sitting in discomfort.
Okay.
And I think it's easier to quit and go for that shiny new object and that grass is always greener than work on what's here. And of course, listen, always, if you're being abused, if you need to go, you go. Right. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that for those, we just grew apart.
It's not, they're not watering
But why can't you grow back together?
Grow back together.
And sometimes it doesn't work. So listen, I believe in divorce. I think it is there for a reason and incredibly important. And I'm really happy that women on this planet can leave horrible, horrible partners. I just think that if we look at relationships, long-term relationships, as seasons, where it's this is our super exciting romantic period. We're obsessed with one another. We can't keep our hands off each other. We want to do everything together and share everything. And I want to know this person inside and out. And we're boning 10 times a day. 2, we have children. You're driving this one there. I'm driving that one here. And I got to work at some point. And is there groceries? And it becomes that season of your life.
Yes.
And then the kids grow up a little bit more. And then they're independent. And then they're out at parties. And they've got maybe their own new, romantic engagements. And you're seeing less and less of them. And then you actually do have a new season of an opportunity to turn back to one another. But you have to choose it. It has to be intentional.
Right.
Where you are saying, I want to go out on a date, or I want to go and do something together. Or let's learn a new X together.
Working on it. You can't
it's choosing to work on it.
Choosing to work on it. You can't
and it's not fun,
it to happen.
And it's not sexy, and it's not always glamorous. And so it's I already been there, done that. what about this new other person who gets me real hot and bothered per my earlier era where I felt really good and it was very exciting and very titillating. And like we couldn't, there's that chemistry for a reason. And then that chemistry gets boring for a reason too.
And I see so often where people, and this is back to the infidelity topic, which is, okay, you have your spouse and you're bogged down and you have your debt and your mortgage and your bills and the kids and all the stress and family and all this stuff. And then they meet someone else who they can have a relationship with none of that.
It's exactly what we were talking about last week.
With the open marriage. Yeah. And so but then they think that the rest of their life with that person is going to be like that.
Exactly.
And then what do? They hop on over there, leave this, okay? And then guess what?
Same.
All your problems, it's all the same stuff. Yeah. Real life hits again.
Wherever you go, there you are.
Then it's real life. And then there's needs there and you get married and you have more kids and you've got this and it all happens again. Let's talk about narcissism.
Another very, very popular topic.
Very popular. People have requested that we do episodes on narcissists.
And we've done a couple.
We've done a few. We did Carrie McAvoy. We did Legally Nick about co-parenting with one and setting up boundaries.
Yeah. Kate Anthony. We've done a few and probably more to come because definitely it is such a popular topic. Yeah.
And I always wonder why. Is it that narcissists in general can't hold down a relationship or they can't?
They're the ones all getting divorced.
That's what I wonder. Like, do I see so many narcissists because they can't? Or does the divorce bring out narcissistic tendencies?
Interesting.
And they're just like that now, but aren't really generally like that.
Yes,
I don't know.
Yeah. And we certainly try to avoid labeling of any kind.
Yeah. Unless you're like a diagnosed by a mental health professional.
And as we all know, they're not going to be because narcissists won't go
That's the thing.
do that. So it's a bit of a catch-22.
A little bit.
But yes, I think if you have a relationship with somebody, you don't know until you are often very far gone down
the relationship
hole.
Yeah.
And then you're very committed. And then you end up at that stage of do I stay or do I go? But you're only realizing some of those tendencies later on.
Right.
Because that's the whole thing. They present very well. There is all of that sort of love bombing at the beginning, which for many could look the same as just romance and affection.
Especially people who are very empathic and really gravitate towards that. They're like the prime target for a narcissist.
Yes. Or maybe somebody who's like, I don't know, anxious avoidant in their love style, right? Where it's like, oh, my attachment is this. And so I'm attracting that certain kind of personality because of what I was lacking in childhood or in whatever. Again, we're not therapists, but there is so much more than just saying, oh, my ex is a narcissist.
Yeah.
Well, sure. And what are the other, pieces of that puzzle? And listen, most of the people that are claiming that, also not diagnosticians, also should not be using labels of any kind.
Right.
But name it to tame it? I don't know.
But sometimes they're right.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are truly right that they are very narcissistic. But like we've said in other episodes, there's a difference between being a narcissist and being narcissistic.
Yes.
And parenting or co-parenting with someone of either of those two camps is challenging.
Listen, mediating
is
with
very
challenging.
Like
It's very difficult.
There's no accountability.
Well, and there's no trust. There's no accountability. Yeah. There's no upholding of agreements.
There's no negotiations, really. It's their way or the highway. And you can't negotiate in that realm. So
I think the narcissist episodes are therapy in a way. It's
listening to them, you mean?
Yeah, it's for the people whose lives have been affected by a true narcissist. It's just so bad. It's so brutal. And I think other people hearing that experience, like, I'm not alone. But also I think it's on the other side where someone like me, who I think sometimes could do something, I'm like, am I a narcissist? You hear about these stories and then you're like, oh, I'm actually not. Like,
you are not.
Yeah, I'm actually a good person.
It's reassuring.
It makes you feel better that like I'm not that.
You're not. Well,
are you suggesting that these episodes are so popular and people love talking about narcissism because it makes them feel better? Like it gives them perspective on how hard other folks' journey in divorce is and theirs is maybe not?
Yeah, like
bad?
For me as a man, listening to how other men behave, like I feel better about myself. Like I have a lot of shortcomings, but when I hear a lot of these other things that these women are enduring with these men who are just brutal, that
Yeah.
it makes me kind of be like, okay, I have my
Yeah.
shortcomings, but I'm not that.
And maybe that helps people decide whether they stay or they go, because
exactly.
maybe it gives them a reference point.
Some perspective.
Some perspective.
Listen,
about, like,
it helps me.
right?
Doing this job. I'm like, oh, I don't ever want a divorce. It's so hard.
Right.
Like, it's so hard. It's not even the process itself, which is incredibly difficult and emotional. It's then, I mean, with kids, obviously, what does your life look like after? You're still stuck with this person. So
Right.
is it worth it? Is it worth
right.
going through, blowing everything up, having these incredibly difficult, invasive, like just gut-wrenching conversations
Mhm.
to then still have to see them at fucking drop-off every other week or at the kid's recital, and you're like, ugh, this guy or ugh, that gal. And
But I equate it to short-term pain.
Yeah.
And listen, I say short-term pain. It could be 10 years you're in this,
Yeah.
right? But for long-term gain, because if you,
That's the hope.
the alternative is just living in your misery
yes.
and a suffering in silence.
And many do.
And many do.
Many
and is
wait for that 18-year mark.
Right. And then sometimes, yes, it is going to be shitty and
Yeah.
difficult, and the divorce is all of those things. But then you have a second chance too. Like you
That
have a second chance that
happiness.
whether you repartner or you don't, you have a chance to sort of reshape your life in
Yeah.
the direction you want it to
Yeah.
go. And that can be amazing for people. It could be scary.
Mhm.
It's very scary,
Yeah.
but it's also wonderful.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I was in therapy this morning and she asked me, we were talking about something and she's like, can I ask how old you are? And I'm like, yeah, 41. And she goes,
Doesn't you have a file?
yeah, that sounds about right. And I kind of feel like it's the same with divorce,
Okay.
where, again, going back to my seasons analogy, women typically, you're coming into your 40s, you're approaching that sort of new awakening, if you
Mhm.
will. And it's like, I no longer wish to do this.
Right.
This, mental load, this emotional labor, this often parenting of your spouse in addition to your children, often at the same time that you're caretaking for your aging parents. And so this like sandwich generation, this time of your 40s, which again is very typical of what I'm seeing in my practice, where you're like, no, I'm over it.
Yeah.
I've done it for too long. I know how short and precious life really is.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to put up with the bullshit anymore. Whether it's a personality disorder, whether it's different parenting styles, whether it's adultery or financial abuse or whatever. Like,
name your poison.
Name your poison.
Yeah.
Pick your poison. Whatever that is, you're just like, I'm fed up.
Yeah.
And life is too short and I don't want to do it anymore. And I think that really ends up being, for me, what I've learned along this 100-episode journey is just that. Like, how much are you willing to put up with? How much are you willing to sacrifice? How much are you willing to give? How much are you willing to I don't know. I mean, throw it again in your adjective, pick your poison. But at some point, I think everyone kind of hits that edge where it's like,
Breaking point.
I don't know, man. Life's too short. This can't be it.
Right.
And for some, maybe that's the wrong choice. Maybe they go out and they forge this new path and it's like, oh, dang, I had it so good back then. I didn't appreciate it. Okay, so lesson learned.
But do you ever meet people and they have that?
They regret
thought?
their divorce?
Yeah. How often? I'm not. It happens.
You know what? Not a one. Not a single time. I don't know a single divorcee who's
No,
regretted
I don't
it.
think I do.
Yeah, interesting.
Who regretted it?
That's a really good point.
With all the hardships and all the difficulties, I don't know anyone who said,
I don't know a
I wish I
single
had
one.
stayed married to this person.
Yeah. Interesting. Now,
Write us in if you do regret your divorce.
because I actually,
and I don't mean like you're 6 months out. I mean like you're 6 years out.
Yeah,
You're 10 years out. Like
exactly.
I want a real, sample.
because even those whom it was not their decision to end the marriage,
Even
still happily divorced.
This episode was written and created by Alex Howard and Amanda Silver. Produced, edited, and engineered by RTF Productions. Make sure to rate and review our show if you loved it, and give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast to stay up to date on all upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening, and go easy on us. We're not your ex.